All right, there's a lot of new people in here, and there's a lot to explain. So here's the rundown. Hi, I'm Isaac. I'm your commissioner. I say that a lot. So I grew up in Rochester, Minnesota, a mile from the John Withers Sport Complex. It's a park named for John Withers, former publisher of the Rochester Post-Bulletin and supporter of Rochester parks. Anyway, in the winter, when I was growing up, I would play boot hockey, not even regular hockey, down at Withers with my friend Jack, Elliot, Lucas, Robert, Dylan, Kevin, Sam, among many others. A lot of familiar names. I went to sports journalism school down in Missouri when I was 18. While I was down there, I met another Isaac from Minnesota, and that is what has birthed where we are right now. Through him, I met guys like Jared, Brian, and Adam, in addition to his brother Andrew, and Austin natives like Jack D and Brian. During COVID, after we graduated, we rented a house in Rochester and got into fantasy sports, like super into fantasy sports. First it was baseball, then it was basketball, then it was football, and then when we had those three, I thought, why not hockey? And so, Withers Rink Rats was born in honor of the park I played hockey at. It is a part of the Swag House Fantasy Federation. You don't have to ask if you don't want to know. Anyway, the first season, every inaugural member pitched in $10 for the John Withers Cup. If you win this league, just like the Stanley Cup, you get it for a year. During the playoffs, as commission keeper of the cup, I take it back, clean it up, and send it on to the next person. At the beginning, we had 12 teams, just like we do now, but hockey is a pretty niche sport, and it's weird to play in fantasy if you're not like a super diehard hockey fan. So people started leaving. My friend Dylan left after one season. We brought in Jack and Briar, and they turned Hockey Team 1 into the Wet Bandits. Elliot Newman left after 2 seasons, so the Oslo Airbenders turned into Team Cruise, and then House of ToeDraggin, Wyatt Cruz we brought in. And after season 3, we had a little bit of an exodus. Brian Walentenowitz, Lucas James, my brother, and Kevin Andrews all renounced their teams. So we welcomed Mike Kravchenko, who took over Brian's team, Evan Kula, who took over Lucas's team, and Hayden Michel, hopefully, who took over Kevin's team. The league now has players in 6 different states, supporting God knows how many hockey teams. I used to do a bunch of fantasy videos for all of these leagues. That was a few years ago, and now it's more like 3 or 4 videos a year. You've known how long it's taken to get one hockey video out. So here is the hockey one, our annual playoff preview. We have made it to early March. There are 8 teams fighting for the John Withers Cup. It's getting warmer. Celebrate the playoffs. We are finally here to talk hockey. Let's get all the way into it, baby. Let's go! This video is brought to you by Jack Dankert and the Old Jersey Exchange that allowed me to rep this beauty, the Elias Pettersson Canucks Reverse Retro. I used to have him on my team, for those unaware, but I traded them for Connor McDavid and other pieces. Well, we can talk about that in a little bit, but Elias Pettersson, good man. Yeah, get your best jersey on, grab your favorite beverage, whatever it is, and get ready for an hour, probably, of hockey content. We're going to go through... we have a lot to talk about considering I didn't make a video for the entire season. So we'll do some eulogies for the teams that missed out. We'll do some all-star stuff. I'll take you through all my stats that I like to do, but I've kept kind of under wraps this year because making videos was super hard. But I guess to kick it off, we do have to welcome our 3 new members, Evan, Mike, and Hayden, who really have not watched any of these videos yet. So you don't really know what's going down unless you have done your homework, which that'd be sick. But either way, that was extra credit, wasn't part of the test. This is part of the test, though. We have a lot to talk about for the season. So if you haven't paid the $20 buy-in, please do that. Part of the reason that we call these fantasy leagues a federation, besides it being funny, is that Gavin Sparks acts as our treasurer, and we have a Venmo specifically for the federation, and all fantasy assets can be in their own separate spot. So if you haven't paid the Venmo request for $20 to the federation, please do that, because I would like to get payouts out as soon as we know who's won what money. So yeah, you can send it directly there if there's no request for some reason. But yeah, we'll break it up. Division winners get their money back, and then I'll put the list right here. And you also get the cup if you win, so pretty cool. The big elephant in the room, for housekeeping at least, is we have new divisions. this year. It's Strobel and Grosso. We have ditched the barn pond format. I was kind of talking about that last year at the end of the season, knowing that we were going to bring a lot more people in. So for those unaware, what we used to do before was have the 6 players with the most hockey experience on the barn side and the 6 with the least on the pond side. But with new players coming in that I don't really know personally, it's really tough to gauge hockey experience. So I said, screw it, we're just gonna make the divisions more permanent. But Strobel and Grosso, what does that even mean? I would love to tell you that. That's what we're going to do. I decided to keep the Withers Rink Rats theme. We have the Withers Cup, and it's Withers Rink Rats because that was where I played my hockey. So we're going to honor more legends of Rochester, Minnesota hockey, specifically the high school I went to. They have 2 big hockey legends at Rochester Mayo. We'll talk about the Grosso division first, and I want to give a big shout out to, I guess up until recently, the winningest boys hockey coach in the history of the state of Minnesota. I believe that record just fell a couple years ago, maybe even this year. But Lauren Grosso, for a very long time, was the winningest hockey coach in Minnesota high school hockey history. He was the coach of Rochester Mayo for almost 50 years or even more. Mayo's been a school for about 60 years, and Grosso was the head coach for its entire existence through when I was there. So that's at least actually 50 years. He was also extremely Catholic. I did a little bit of research on this. He was on track to become a priest before becoming a Latin teacher at Lourdes High School, the Catholic school in Rochester, and then also became a Latin teacher at Mayo, then got the hockey job and went from there. So we have a lot of people in this league that are either in or graduated from the law school at the University of St. Thomas, noted Catholic school. And we have a lot of people that have been recruited to this league by the people that go or went to St. Thomas Law. So I felt like those people seemed like perfect fits to join the new Grosso division. That means the Bucket Boys of Isaac Schumacher and Dan Condon, a fighting apostle himself. We're going to be in the Grosso division. Wyatt Cruz, another fighting apostle, is in here. We put the Washington football team, Isaac Schumacher's brother Andrew, put him in here. Another Austin, Minnesota resident, Jack Dankert and Briar Flanders, we put them in here with the Wet Bandits. Evan Kula, the recruit from Dan Condon in Nebraska, but he doesn't like it, obviously. We put him in here. And who'd I miss? Rob. He's the only Mayo graduate that is not in the other division, but I threw Sidney Crosby and Robert Schmidt over here because he has a natural rivalry with the Austin guys. He knows them pretty well. So I figured if anyone was going to swim well over in Grosso, it would be Rob. So that's why I did that. Those are the 6 teams in the Grosso division. Now, the Strobel division is named for Eric Strobel. He's a Mayo High School graduate. I believe now he is actually a lawyer, so any of the St. Thomas Law guys could have been in Strobel as well. But he's a Mayo High School graduate and was a member of the 1980 U.S. Miracle on Ice team. So he had a little big spot in the Spartan Wall of Fame in our high school, and I was like, oh, that's a cool hockey guy. So when it came time to name a division, it's Grosso and Strobel. Like, it's that easy. The division created for most of the guys that I knew growing up and have played the most hockey with me personally. I'm commissioned, I get to do that, sorry. So I'm here, of course. Sam Schutz is here, the Rocky Mountain Spires. Jack Ryan and Aiden Kemp from Hot Seider, they're both here. And then Beer League Bender, Jared Siegel and Adam Cohen are both here. Not people that went to Mayo, but also not people that you would throw in the Grosso division necessarily. Don't have the St. Thomas Law connection. So they go into Strobel. And then the two of the other new teams, Hayden Mischel and Mike Kravchenko, both Beer League Bender recruits, get to be in the division with the people that recruited them to the league. So that's how I see it. And that's how we got the divisions that we have. I do not envision changes to this format in the near future. We'll see how it goes. 14 categories remain the same from last year, of course. The playoff structure remains the same. It's just like the NHL. The top 3 from each division, then the top 2 wild cards. That is how we do it over here in Rink Rats. Does mean that some teams get bounced earlier than they should, but I think it also will make for cool playoff rivalries as we go through the years. I'm excited for that. All right, Let's talk about All-Stars. I'm gonna take a breath and stop the video and we'll go from there. There'll be a first team, a second team, and a third team, just shouting out the best players from Player Rater. This is one of the key things that I use to determine which players are good and which teams are good as a result. If you want to find that, you can go, it's under the Players tab on your laptop. If you go to the league, if you go to Rink, it's under the Players tab and just Player Rater right there, and it'll give you a nice sortable thing. But yeah, let's get back to the All-Stars. The first team is led by Nathan MacKinnon of the Wet Bandits, reigning MVP of this league, and I believe of the NHL as well. Your wings are Leon Draisaitl and Nikita Kucherov, who is just wasting away on the football team, but is a first-team All-Rink Rats member this year. D pairing, Cale Makar, no shocker. I am pretty surprised to see Zach Werenski here, also in the Connor McDavid trade that involved Elias Pettersson a couple years ago, but Werenski's playing very, very well for Columbus. The utilities, Sidney Crosby, Quinn Hughes, Jack Eichel, and your two goaltenders, Connor Hellebuck and Andrei Vasilevsky, who went to Bender in the free agency draft last year, or in the offseason. That was pretty crazy. The second team, Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor, both of the Bucket Boys, who missed the playoffs for the first time in their 4-year history. That is crazy, but they have a lot of All-Stars. Scheifele and Connor, two among them. Sam Reinhart of House of ToeDraggin is your right winger on the second team. Defenseman pairing Mo Seider and Victor Hedman. Utilities, Jack Hughes, Connor McDavid is here on the second team this year, and Evan Bouchard. And your two goalies, Logan Thompson and Jake Ottinger. Then your third team, shout out Dylan Larkin, man. He's had a resurgence in Detroit this year, and for House of ToeDraggin, he makes the third team All-Star list. Your wingers, Brady Tkachuk and David Pasternak, again of the football team. He's got two of the best right wings in the league. Your defenseman pairing, Josh Morrissey and Rasmus Dahlin. Utilities, Vincent Trocheck, Mackenzie Weegar, and Nico Hischier. Your two goalies, Mackenzie Blackwood, who was a waiver wire pickup a couple years ago, is now an all-star for the Wet Bandits. And Jacob Markstrom makes it in for the Bucket Boys, even though he just hit injured reserve. Those are your all-stars. Now we're going to talk about some stats. We're going to talk statistics. All right, welcome inside the laptop screen. This is Rink Rats Season 4 Stats and Tables. I think I put this link in the chat like months ago. If you do want this, I will send it in the chat again, I guess, and maybe link it in the description of this video. Last time I said I was going to do that, I forgot to do that, but we'll see how this goes. So there are 3 tabs on here that matter for stats, and that is keep track of the taxi squads on that tab down here. Yeah, if you want to call up any players, that's kind of how you see who's on your taxi. And I can also just tell you at any time if you want to know who's on your taxi squad. Either way, there's the predictor and the luck meter. Those are kind of the 2 main things that I do for like every league that we're in the Federation. But I'll explain the predictor as I've done a million times in the past 4 years. But especially with new people here, I'm going to explain it again. So we're going to take like the center position, for instance. You see that the Wet Bandits have 12 points and they're shaded green. That's because their top center is Nathan MacKinnon, who is one of the highest scoring players in the league. According to Player Rater, this is all based on Player Rater, which I think is a really good way to determine which players are good in category-style leagues. Told you how to get there a few minutes ago. But Nathan MacKinnon, 12 points for being the best center. Sidney Crosby has the guy who is in second place, and I don't remember who that is. Yeah, I don't remember who that is off the top of my head. Damn. The higher the Player Rater, the more points you get, and you just fill out these roster spots until your roster is completely full. So like these utility slots will get filled before anything on the bench, right? That's how this works. In hockey, and especially in the league that we have, where the starting lineup is so small compared to other fantasy hockey leagues out there, I have given the starters, like your starting lineup gets a 1.5 times bonus towards this final score over here. But the bench is still important. You do need depth, but having good starters is key to succeeding in this league. So I've weighted that. So I don't do that for other leagues, honestly, but I do it for hockey because I think it matters more. So this is not a fail-safe because it just goes off player rater. It doesn't go off like team construction and what categories you need to win. Like if you're loaded up on defensemen, to get hits and blocks, that might be a winning strategy, but it's not going to show up in player rater because maybe they just don't score at all. So stuff like that. Predictor's not a fail-safe, but it does tend to get it right. In terms of groupings, at least you look more at the colors than the actual number total. That's kind of how I see it. So we have our playoff predictor numbers right here. And what I think is very interesting, you would believe that based off the standings, Beer League Bender would be far and away the number one team in predictor. And they were for a time, but right now, not only are they not first, they are kind of off the pace in fourth. And there's a top three that are pretty clear: Seider, ToeDraggin, and the Bandits. Very intrigued by this. It's the first time that Seider has been at the top of this ranking since season 1, when they won like 20 straight games to open the Rink Rats campaign season 1. That ended in a first round playoff loss to the Hosers, who now become Brinis. I feel like I'm going to be a history guy for half of this anyway. You have the top three, which is Jack Ryan, Wyatt, and Jack Dankert. Then you go to Beer League Bender at 176, and then, oh my gosh, look who's in fifth, the Bucket Boys, who are going to miss the playoffs this year. Goes to show that they kind of drew the short straw this season. They got put up against a lot of really good performances, and they will be not in the dance as a result. But Predictor likes them a lot, and we'll see some other tabs in a little bit that show that, yeah, the Bucket Boys are probably a deserving playoff team this year, just didn't get it. Nebraska in 6th, the Spires 7, another team that is going to go home early and not be in the playoffs. Look who's in 8th. The 2 seed in Strobel, my North Stars, are below 2 teams that missed the playoffs this year. And that's because my team is so top heavy. We have no depth at all, which is why I'm saying it's important to have a good starting lineup. So this predictor weights the starting lineup a little bit heavier. But maybe I should weight it even more because my depth is so bad, but yet we continue to win games and be in good spots in the playoffs. But either way, Predictor didn't do this the last couple seasons. It really liked the North Stars, but this year something has changed and the depth has gotten a lot worse. So the North Stars in 8, the Brinis at 9, and then Crosby 10, the Melanie Bedard fan club in 11th. But the reason that Mike is there at less than 100 points is because go over here and look at this like injury list. This is like guys that are not on the active roster or are hurt, but would be in the lineup because of play rate. I just took them out because they're either hurt or on taxi squads. And Mike is the only guy with 3 players that are hurt right now. Adam Fox, Charlie McAvoy, Miro Heiskanen, all on injured reserve. So that defenseman pairing is just not going super well right now. Even though he's got a ton of good defensemen, they're all hurt. So Bedard is better than 11th. I'll say that, but going into the playoffs, they're just in a bad spot right now. And the Washington football team bringing up the rear as per usual in this season. So that's Predictor in a nutshell. During the season, I update it probably like once every month or so, especially when football winds down. That's when I start to get into that. Let's go to the luck meter. This, I think, is a much better method of determining like who's going to win a playoff matchup. You can see I have all the playoff matchups kind of set here, and you actually see my predictions early. Oh shit. Maybe I'll just put my picture-in-picture right over it so you can't see my semifinal predictions. But up here at the top, this is just the ESPN standings tab. Like if I can go over here, yeah, I was looking at the North Stars schedule before. Hit the wrong button. Standings. Okay, right? So the luck meter is based all on this, on the season stats. So you sort by goals. You see that the Wet Bandits are far and away the number 1 goal scoring team. Crosby 2nd, Bucket Boys 3rd. You go on down the line. Then let's go back over here, and I've just given you, I mean, I know that because you're the top scoring team in the league, it doesn't mean that you're going to win goals 100% of the time. That's why I have this adjustment in here. But yeah, the Bandits are first of 12, so I give them 12 of 12, like 12 divided by 12, which is 1, so 100%. Second place team, Sidney Crosby, they get 11 out of 12, or 11 twelfths, 91%. And so on and so forth until you get down to Bedard, the lowest goal scoring team in the league, who gets just 8%. So you add all of these up, you go through all of the categories that we use in Rink Rats, and then it spits out an expected win percentage. Based on where you sit in that table, it decides what your win percentage should be if you were just kind of playing average, playing the computer every week. And then I got to put the adjustment in. So this is the real number. The teams on the edges, like the fringes, the best teams and the worst teams tend to get a little bit, their results are skewed. As you can see, like, is the football team really the luckiest team in the league? No, you just can't really physically have a win percentage of 131. Like, there's just so much volatility in the league that's how you get numbers like this. That's how you get a number like that, because like Beer League Bender's not going to win 75% of the categories all the time. In a category league like this, basically the ceiling is 700. I've seen like 705 like once in hockey and in baseball, are 2 category leagues. That's basically your ceiling. So when this spits out 750, it's just not going to happen. So the top is kind of weird, the bottom's kind of weird, but the middle checks out. And really what's interesting is just to find out the adjusted win percentage versus the actual win percentage, who's getting lucky, who isn't. And you can see past, the football team, Sidney Crosby and Beer League Bender, these outliers because they're on the edges of the league in terms of actual win percentage. The unluckiest team, the Bucket Boys. Shocker. They've had a lot of all-stars. They look good in Predictor. They just kind of got the short end of the stick this year. Hot Seider's been unlucky as well, and that checks out from Predictor. We go back to here. They're the number 1 team in the Predictor. And how are they 3rd place in the Strobel division? Well, it's because they kind of got unlucky this year with their matchups. That's the way it goes. So that is what I do. And then I go in and I look at the first round matchups, and it's a good way to see category by category what likely is going to happen. Of course, there's always volatility. There's always things that change, but that is how I make my predictions, which I will be going to tell you now in just a split second. I also have this tab called Streaks. I think for hockey, this is interesting. It's just your 6-week rolling average, basically. I don't have the numbers in. I'm recording this on Sunday night, so I don't technically have the Week 19 finals in just yet. And the scoreboard tab is weird. Like, if you see, because I have updated some of the other tabs with what is going to happen, what the final score is going to be, but this is why I was on the North Star schedule. Like, you look here, if I go down here, this is how I populate the streaks. It says I'm down 6-8 to Bender, and you'll click on it, load. No, you're not, you're down 9-4-1. So I have to wait until tomorrow to have that schedule tab updated. So that's why I'm going to wait. But yeah, the 6-week rolling average, and then putting in the conditional formatting so you can see green is good, red is bad, when teams get hot and when they don't. So off of this, I would say, man, the Bandits look like they're going to be a problem. Same with Nebraska. Same with ToeDraggin. The champion might come out of Grosso. That makes a lot of sense because the North Stars peaked. They're falling off. Bender fell off a little bit, but now they're coming back, and they've been a championship favorite all season, so they'll be a good team. And Seider has never really gotten it going all season long, but the underlying statistics say that they're good. So if they can just get lucky maybe a little bit in the playoffs, they could go on a run as well. I take all of this, I think about it for a long time, and then I go and make my predictions, which I believe is going to happen right now. Let me go see the script. Is that next? Oh, it's eulogies first. We have to give some eulogies to the 4 that didn't make it before the 8 that did. We're going to make this quick, but since this is the only hockey video you get this year, we do have to just talk about every team in the league a little bit. 4 teams didn't make it. We start with the Washington football team, who end with a win percentage of, I need to get back to it, of 320. That is not good. We have had some teams make the playoffs with those win percentages before, but that was before we made sure that there were 2 wild cards instead of just 4 teams from each division. 320, not good whatsoever. The football team is in inglorious company now. Another season with no playoffs. They are the only team in Rink Rats to have never made the playoffs in 4 seasons, and they are one of only 5 total Federation franchises with at least 4 seasons and no playoff appearances. There's 1 in football, there's 2 in baseball, and 1 in basketball, and then 1 in hockey. So with the former cellar dweller, Brian Walentenowitz Strudel from Mein Stutzla, turning into the Melanie Bedard fan club and making the playoffs, the new cellar dweller resides in Washington. Andrew Schumacher and Alex Ciola will have to go back to the drawing board once again. They have Kucherov, Pasternak, and that's about it. The rest of the roster is pretty barren, so they may have to have some recruitment done, and maybe the football team can be salvaged. Otherwise, it may be coming under new ownership in the next year or 2. We'll see. I'm looking at that. Another team that missed the playoffs, Robert Schmidt and Sidney Crosby. Man, last year they made it for the first time and got my North Stars, and the North Stars moved on a tiebreaker. Rob got very, very close. He was about 5 shots on goal away from the biggest upset in recent Rink Rats history, the 8th seed taking down a 1, but he didn't do it. Got very close, and then this year just did not go the way that he would have hoped. Alex Ovechkin has been great when he's been healthy, but the deal is he hasn't been healthy the whole season, so missing time really hurts, and a lack of depth kicks him to the curb once again. They do have a good piece in William Smith on the taxi squad. They'll be in the top 4 draft lottery, so it looks like it's time to add another big piece. They do have some risers and some young guys that have kind of stalled out, but I do expect Crosby can be back fighting for a wild card spot in Season 5. It just was not time for him this year. Then 2 teams that you don't normally expect to be here getting eulogized early, the Bucket Boys. I did not expect to see them here whatsoever. It's only Shu's 2nd missed playoffs in 21 combined Federation seasons. That's insane. He's got 5 different teams in 5 different leagues, and he's only missed the playoffs combined twice, and one of them was football, which is just basically a coin flip. It's really, really crazy that he's not in this year. One of the unluckiest teams in the league this year. You could say they were the number 1 unluckiest. They just never got going. I don't think this team had a win percentage above 400 until the very, very end of the season. Just a really, really tough start, and they could never dig out of that hole. A team that relies on depth for the accolades that they do have. They have the Season 1 championship and a division title under their belt, but the depth was just kind of not there this year. They still have star power. They have some all-stars on their roster, but the depth took a step back, and then they got unlucky, and then boom, you're here. Last year's all-in push, for sure, came home to roost. They sacrificed some long-term depth for the ability to push all their chips to the middle of the table last year, and this is what happens. The other shoe has dropped on the Bucket Boys. The taxi squad is stacked, though. Dan Condon's doing a great job as director of scouting over there at Bucket Boys LLC. Expect them back next year with a clean slate and hopefully a little bit better luck. They will not be down for long, especially with a top 4 pick coming to them this year. And finally, the first miss for the Rocky Mountain Spires and Sam Shoots. First time in 4 seasons they're not in the bracket. Even years, or I guess I should say odd years, but I'm thinking Season 2 and Season 4. But yeah, odd years, 2023 and 2025 have been less kind than the other side for Sam. He's got a couple of semifinal appearances, a couple of good playoff showings under his belt, but in Season 2 and Season 4, he was an 8 seed and then got bounced early. He got very close against Bedard this week. He needed a huge result and actually got a 10-4. He just needed like a 12-2 to get in. It's really weird, though. The predictors started respecting this team. Historically, it's not like the Spires because it's the same type of thing. Like, their depth is so non-existent. They just have a couple of, like, really good guys at the top. But Sam's done good to, fill out the roster, but the second that started happening, they fell off. They're just a lot of mid across the board. You know, they're not really bad at anything, but they're not really good at anything either. And that's just a recipe for mediocrity. And in a stacked division, a stacked Strobel division with other teams getting a little bit luckier than them, this is what happens. But now, again, they're in the draft lottery. Like the Bucket Boys, the Spires are in a good position to come back and contend in 2025 and 26. It's just not going to happen this year. Sometimes it ain't your day. And that's it for Shu and Sam. Yeah, those are your eulogies. Rest in peace. We'll see you next year. All right, we are to the point where it's time to get down and dirty. We have 4 playoff matchups to talk about. We have 8 teams. I'm very excited to finally get into the meat of this thing. Let's decide who's coming home with the cup, baby. We will start in the Grosso division. We're going to go by matchup instead of really by team. I mean, every team has a little bit that I wrote up on them, but excuse me, well, not as big as past years. Famous last words for every single video. I'm trying to keep it short, but never happens. But we're going to try. We're going to start in Grosso, and we're going to start with the number 1 seed over there, the back-to-back division champions, the Wet Bandits, the reigning champions of this league, the John Withers Cup title holders. They will get the first wild card, the technical 7 seed, and that will be Hayden Michel's Seider Brinis, formerly known as the Hermantown Hosers. They have made it in. In a previous life, this was a Dystonia Bowl. We do have rivalry games for a bunch of our friends that were in these leagues. It was Dylan Hilliker and Kevin Andrews, formerly of the band Dystonia from Rochester, Minnesota. They both had teams in this league. Dylan's hockey team 1 became the Wet Bandits, and Kevin's Hermantown Hosers became Seider Brinis. So we would have a Dystonia Bowl if this was 2021, but right now it's just a playoff matchup. They are from different divisions, so they only matched up once this year, and in week 7, it was a 7-7 tie, 777 jackpot. Interesting. We'll start with the Wet Bandits and a summary of their season. They went 10-5-4. The win percentage was .594 when it was all said and done. Good enough for their second division title. It was a great start for Briar and Jack when they lost 4 straight between the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas. They're currently on an 8-week unbeaten streak, but it includes 4 ties. It's incredible. They've had 4 ties in 8 weeks. They're all 7-7. Super interesting. They are the reigning champions. They are the best offensive team in the league. They lead the 3 big scoring categories, goals, assists, and points. The gap, as some might call it. They also lead average time on ice and shots on goal. So they're the number 1 team in the league in 5 categories. This is a wagon. Do not get it twisted. The defense and the goaltending is mediocre, maybe average. So you can say this team has an Achilles heel. There's a way to attack them and go after beating them. But by and large, this team is ready to run it back. They have just about everything they need. If the goalies get hot like last year, watch out for them, because then the weaknesses just melt away. They're the number 1 seed, and they have a long time to get healthy and get hot. So the Bandits definitely one of my favorites to pick up the cup this year and repeat. It would be crazy. We've only had 1 repeat champion in the Federation ever. So doing the back-to-back would be nuts. The Seider Brinis, Hayden Michel, good job, man. Congratulations on making the playoffs. The Hermantown Hosers were not a team that made it very often. They do have a playoff win under their belt, and one of the craziest things I've ever seen. In Season 1, they were the 8th seed, didn't set their lineup all year, then went up against Hot Seider, a team that had won 20 consecutive matchups in a 22-week regular season, and then Kevin was just like, yeah, I'm gonna beat them. So the Hosers have 1 playoff win, but for Season 2 and Season 3, it was kind of MIA. So all these new managers, like, kudos. They're taking over teams that have not had any TLC in a couple seasons. So the fact they're all in the playoffs is really cool. Hayden gets his flowers first. They went 9-9-1 this year. The win percentage is just under 500, I believe, at 498. Yeah, 498. They have had some streaky weeks in a good way. Like, they've been one of the better teams in the league for stretches in this season. They won 4 straight and 6 of 7 while the Bandits were losing during the holiday swoon. The Brinis then dropped 4 straight in the early part of 2025 before blowing out Seider 12-2 last week. Hayden's showing some life. He's made the second most moves in the league. No one was going to beat out Siegel and specifically Adam Cohen, but second place is nothing to sneeze at. Hayden's making moves to make his team better. He's only got 4 wins on the season against playoff teams, but he's coming in fresh off a big win against Seider. If the goaltender categories swing his way, he's going to win hits and face-off wins. Like, there is a path to where Hayden can pull this upset off. It's not likely, but it's possible. The Brinis are in a good position. Winning the lottery certainly helped. They were going to pick second, but having the draft lottery gave them number 1. So the taxi squad is solid. They will be an ascendant team in the future, I'm sure of it, but they have their shot this year. Pretty cool. Shout out. So let's take a look at the categories and break down what I think is actually going to happen in this game. The categories favor the Bandits off of regular season statistics, 9-3-2. I'm going to set the line at Bandits by 5.5. The Bandits are clear in scoring. They're just the best team in the league at scoring, so they're going to win those categories. Skating categories, I call them skating, but like hits, blocks, average time on ice, stuff like that. The Bandits are better as well. Not as big of a difference as the scoring difference, but Bandits are still better. The goaltending looks like it's a push. It's going to maybe lean to Hayden and the Brinis. So we'll see. I would expect Hayden to at least split those categories, if not take a majority of the goaltender categories. My pick is going to be the Brinis to cover. I do think it'll be closer than like a 9-3-2, but I will take the Bandits to move on. The reason why is the Selly Brinis have won at least 5 categories in each matchup since November 17th. It's been a very, very long time since Hayden's been like blown out. It'll be a respectable playoff debut, I think, but Briar and the reigning champion Bandits just have too much firepower, I believe. They won another title. They are set up and built to do just that. Hayden, I think, is a year or 2 away from truly like contending for a title. So I think it'll be respectable, maybe like an 8-5-1 type action, 9-4 maybe. But the Bandits are going to move on this one. That is my pick, and I feel pretty solid about that. I'll take a breath, maybe get some water. I'm getting a little parched, but we're going to go to the other Grosso matchup, which I think could be very exciting. Sparks could fly in this one. The 2-3 in the Grosso division, very interesting to me. House of ToeDraggin, Wyatt Cruz against Evan Kula, and Nebraska sucks. The spin on this one, it's Dan Condon's 2 Rink Rats recruits, he of the Bucket Boys and the Fightin' Apostles. His 2 recruits for this league face off in a Grosso division matchup we are sure to see again in brackets to come. These teams were also both drafted by somebody else. All 4 teams on the Grosso side have been handed off to them. None of their owners were in the league for the original startup draft. So House of ToeDraggin was originally drafted by my friend Elliot Newman. The team was called the Oslo Airbenders. They were very good for 3 seasons, or 2 seasons actually. Elliot only had them for 2, but season 1 they started off as the hottest team in the league for like 6 weeks. I remember that. And then Nebraska Sucks was drafted by Lucas Janes, my brother. He called him Ericsson's X, even though he didn't have Joel Eriksson Ek, which is kind of funny. Ha ha ha. And they were very good in the regular season. They have a couple division titles and a 1 seed to their name, but just could not have the playoff success. When it came time to win, Lucas never made a final because he didn't know hockey like that, I guess, and could get outmanaged and outworked when you don't love it, That's fair. So now both teams under new ownership. Previous matchups, it's been a wash so far. Week 6, Wyatt took it 8-6, and then week 18, Evan took it 8-6. So 14-14 on the categories through 1 regular season, and this will be the way we decide the rubber match. Who takes the advantage going into season 2 and who makes the semifinal. We're going to start with ToeDraggin and a little recap of their season. They went 10-8-1, ended up getting a win percentage of .562. They had a shot at the division title in the final week of the season, but the Wet Bandits pulled ahead with a good week, and Wyatt actually kind of stumbled at the very end here to a 7-7 tie with Crosby. Yeah, but the Bandits won 11-3, so that'll do it. Wyatt's boys started very hot. They won 6 of 7 to start the season. Then they completely shut down, losing 5 straight matchups before turning it on again and going unbeaten in 5 straight. Now they head into the playoffs on a loss and what looks like is going to be a tie. So the streakiness needs to flip right now if they want to go on a run. They're totally capable, but if it's up, down, you kind of see right now ToeDraggin is going down. It needs to stop, needs to flip now. They're not exactly a scoring team, which is what kind of kept them from a division title. They have a little bit more weakness than the Bandits, but it doesn't mean they're a bad team. They're actually a very good team. They have good skating numbers. They have a top 4 goaltending unit in the league that's more than enough categories to be competitive every single week. They're comfortably in the playoffs for the 3rd time in 4 seasons, if you count the Airbenders time. And I do think that the House of ToeDraggin is primed to compete in the present and in the future. This team will be around for a while. Wyatt's been a good manager since popping in a couple years ago. Evan Kula, in his debut for Withers Rink Rats, went 9-9-1. He had an outside shot a couple weeks ago at the division title, but it just didn't end up going to him. His win percentage kind of fell down at the very end of the season. It's now at .532 after sitting in the mid-5s for most of the season, around like .550. So 9-9-1 for Evan in Nebraska. He started his Rink Rats campaign with 3 wins, then 4 losses. Then he's basically traded wins and losses until the end of the season here. Evan picked up the best team of the 3 new managers by far. The other 2, Hayden and Mike, got teams that had been cellar dwellers pretty much. But Evan lucked into a 2-time division champion, a former 1 seed, one of the winningest teams in the league. So naturally, Evan has the best record of all 3 of the new managers. Connor Hellebuck and Cale Makar are such a dynamite duo. They've just been incredible. Cale has been the best defenseman in the league so far, and Connor Hellebuck's been the best goaltender in the league this year. It's led to success in the past, of course. This Nebraska/X franchise is one of 4 to make the playoffs in all 4 seasons. So Evan has done a good job keeping the ship afloat and making sure that they make it back to the playoffs in a top 3 spot as well, not even taking the wild card. The scoring of the old X teams, this team for a time had like no weaknesses. So the scoring has fallen off a little bit. You could score a little bit more, but goaltending and defensive categories remain strong as ever. So we kind of have a strength on strength matchup here. Neither of these teams in the matchup are going to score a lot of goals, but they are going to skate well and they're going to save some pucks. So it's just who's better at constructing very similar teams. You take a look at the categories, and it's the closest, or it's a close matchup. I think the other 2-3 is pretty close too, but 6-5-3 in favor of ToeDraggin is kind of what the categories shake out as. So the line is -1, very, very close. Scoring is close, and it's not great for anyone, so it is kind of up in the air. You could really flip a coin, but I think it leans towards Wyatt and ToeDraggin. He's had a little bit more success. Skating is ToeDraggin, goaltending is Nebraska. That kind of seems like the case. So it's very close. It could go either way, but I am making myself pick, and I'm going to take Wyatt. I'm going to take ToeDraggin, money line, and move on. Again, 2 similarly constructed teams, but I think Wyatt has more room for error, and having the high seed tiebreaker may come in clutch. This could very, very easily be 7-7, and in that case, you couldn't even go to head-to-head because both teams won a matchup 8-6. You just have to go to who had the better record in the regular season, who had the higher seed, and that would go to Wyatt. I could very easily see this happening, where it's a 7-7 matchup at the end of the day, and Wyatt is the one that moves on. The X Factor, I think, is Roman Josi, one of Evan's defensemen, part of the old X-Dynamite pairing of Makar and Josi. He just hit injured reserve. If he comes back in the next 2 weeks and is able to play, that would be huge for Evan, but if he doesn't, this is Wyatt Cruz's matchup to lose. So I do think it's very close, but it all leans towards Wyatt. So I'm picking ToeDraggin to move on. That's my story. Sticking to it. Let's move to the other side of the bracket. It's Strobel time. The number 1 seed in Strobel is the number 1 overall seed in the league. Adam Cohen and Jared Siegel, for the first time in their 4-year history in this league, have won a division, which does not seem like a real stat. I said that in the chat. Beer League Bender is one of the most successful playoff teams. They have made 2 finals. They've won a playoff game in each of their 3 seasons, but yet still do not have a championship. It's incredible. This is their best shot so far in 4 years. I feel like I say that every year. Their chances keep getting better, and this is an even better one. As the #1 seed taking on the second wild card, a Cohen recruit to this league, so a little bit of a rivalry game in the first round. Mike Kravchenko's Melanie Bedard fan club. Shout out Melanie. What's good? Corey Perry not on this roster, I imagine. The spin here, it's Cohen versus Mike. Very intrigued by that. This was finally the Bender breakthrough year in the regular season. Third best win percentage in the history of the league. The top one was the North Stars last year, very close to 700. That ended in a finals loss. Then any team that's gotten to about 650 has fallen short. It's so interesting. This is another part of the spin. They're finally the favorite, Bender is. Can they finally lift the cup? The deal is with 1 seeds, we have to watch out for this. The 1 seeds have had sequential order, I guess, in how they've lost. Seider, season 1, lost first round. Who was the 1 seed, season 2? The X lost in the semifinal, so they won one more round. Last year, the North Stars lost in the final, so it all sets up perfectly, right? This is finally the year the 1 seed wins it, right? Adam Cullen, Jared Siegel are 6 weeks away from finding out. The pressure is on them, big time. Previous matchups between these two teams, this does not look like it's going to be much of a task for Beer League Bender to get this done. Both times they've played Bedard, they've won exactly 10-3-1. So, I do imagine this is going to be a Bender win, but we'll get to the categories in a second. We're going to talk about these teams. Bender finished the season 15-2-2. Their win percentage will finish at 654, just above a couple of teams. 650 is right about at that #1 overall seed level for most of these seasons. 15-2-2. Their 2 losses are to the same team. They lost to Seider twice. So if your name isn't Jack Ryan or Aiden Kemp, I'm sorry, you lost to Beer League Bender at some point this year. 9 straight wins in the middle of the season, sandwiched between those Seider defeats. They are top 3 in the league in 9 of 14 categories. Oh, sorry. I just got a sleeper notification, and I saw Leonard has retired from basketball. I thought it was Kawhi. It's Myers Leonard. Boo. Why'd you send that? Why'd you send that notification? Either way, they're top 3 in the league in 9 of 14 categories, so they're just giving themselves a chance to not only win, but dominate every single time out. There is just not a true weakness on this team. They have the most consistent goaltending out there, thanks to Andrei Vasilevsky, who bounced around to a couple teams last year before landing with Bender, thanks to their cap space in the free agency draft. They are unmatched in skating. They are the best hits, blocks, average time on ice type team in the league. And their weakness is scoring, but they're still top 5 in the league. So, it's just going to take a Herculean effort to beat this team and in 8 categories over a 2-week stretch. They're just the best team right now. They have 4 straight Bledsoe Awards, which is the award that I give out to the manager who makes the most moves in the regular season. It's always Cohen. It's always Cohen in this league. And it's not close. He had 34 moves this year. Second place had 16. He is a waiver wire menace, and he will be getting the best out of his roster. So it all sets up, right? They're the 1 seed. They have the stats. They have the people. You know that Cullen's going to be doing his waiver wire deal. This is the time. I said it last year too. This has got to be the time. All they have to do, once again, is go out and take it. I don't know. Bedard, Mike Kravchenko, good job, man. They did go 8-10-1. They did lose more than they won, but if you were here to see Strudel from Mein Stutzel, you know that this is such a massive step up for this team. It's so nice to see this team having its lineup set, having someone take care of the roster. It's just more fun to watch those hockey players than knowing that they're actually on a playoff team in your fantasy league. I find that to be the case. I'm also the commission. I do spreadsheets and all this bullshit, but I find that interesting. The fan club itself had a win percentage of .474 this year, went 8-10-1. They're finally out of the basement and into the dance. Like I said, it's just so good to see them and Mike Kravchenko has done a good job to get them here early. They're not necessarily a good team yet. They're definitely not bad, but I would not consider them a championship contender at this point. This is, again, a roster that has had no help given to it besides draft picks for 3 seasons. Brian did not put a whole lot of effort into this team. So Mike is basically starting from square one with Connor Bedard, so maybe square 2, but it's a lot of work to do to build a championship team. So the fact that they're even here is pretty cool. Goaltending needs help. Skating is iffy, not to mention they're very hurt right now. They're not coming into the playoffs at their best, but they do have good scoring. When they're healthy, it's a crazy defensive core. That was one thing Brian did super well, was build up some crazy defensemen on this team. And the biggest thing of all, again, is someone setting the lineups and taking care of the team. The predictor always said in previous seasons that this team was somewhere around the middle of the pack, maybe like a 7-8 seed. And when we get someone to actually set the lineups, oh my god, shocker, this team's an 8 seed. Boom. We did it. Love to see it. So let's go into the categories. You know what I'm going to say about this matchup, to be fair. The categories say 10-1-3 Bender, so the line is about like -8. Scoring leans Bender. Skating and goaltending are pretty solidly Bender. The pick is Bender money line. I think picking a big blowout over 2 weeks in the playoffs is pretty tough to do. But Bender's gonna win. This is unlike last year's 1-8 where Sidney Crosby was a pretty good matchup for my weaknesses. Ended up being 7-7. I moved on a tiebreaker, but man, Rob gave me all that I can handle. I don't think Mike really has a shot here because Bender's just so good all over the place. There's not a true like weakness he can try and exploit in terms of categories. Like you'd have to be lucky and good and then some in order to even like get close. This has just been years in the making. Adam and Jared have built up a really, really good roster since the beginning. So Mike can do that. It's just going to take some time, and Bender's already put the time in. That's just what happens when you come into the league late. Not like that's his fault, but it's just the cards you're dealt. Bender by 1 billion, to be fair. Glad Bedard's here, but Bender's winning this. All right, one more matchup. It's a rumble in the boundary waters in the Strobel division. The 2 seed versus the 3 seed. My Novo Kuznetsk North Stars, and then Jack Ryan and Aiden Kemp Hot Seider. This is going to be a fun one. I'm excited to play Seider in the first round. It'll be sick. The Spin. These are 2 of these leagues' marquee franchises. If you had to pick, I know, I put myself there, blah, blah, blah. I got a title, though. And the North Stars have been consistently good. We've made the playoffs all 4 seasons. Same with Hot Seider. They're always in the playoffs. Both teams are always a threat to do something. The North Stars have had more playoff luck and playoff success than Seider has, because really it's a lack of Seider playoff success, unfortunately. They played great in the regular season. It's not like something changes. It's not like something changes with the management. It's just like players don't play as well or they get hurt. But yeah, these are 2 teams that have always been good, always set their lineups, they're making good moves, and there's well-run hockey franchises, and this playoff matchup will be cool. They're 2 of the top 4 teams in the league this year, so this is the annual Rink Rats first-round matchup that should be a semifinal. One team will have a promising season come to a screeching halt in 2 weeks, while one will get their best shot at likely Beer League Bender in the Strobel Division Final, which will be super, super fun. The matchups are split, not evenly split like a couple others, but week 1, we opened the season against each other. I won 10-4. Week 14, just about a month ago, Seider got the best of me 8-5-1. So we'll start with the North Stars, who went 12-6-1 this season for a win percentage of .583. We were at 600 roughly, but Bender just beat the brakes off of me this last week, so we're down to .583. A pedestrian start for this team, then we won 8 of 9 mid-season. Things have cooled down lately, especially with my Lord and Savior, Kirill Kaprizov, out long-term. He was the engine to this team, Connor McDavid aside. It really was Kaprizov's team. It always has been, to be fair, but Kaprizov was really driving the better results. And now with him out for a while, we're starting to see the team come back down to earth a little bit. The North Stars blueprint has always been the same: skate, save, and score just enough to win. It's not as solid as last year, but the blueprint still exists, and it's been an easy way. Well, not easy, but we've been to the finals the last 2 years. We've been very good at hits and blocks and average time on ice, and we have a very good goaltending pair of UC Saros and Jake Ottinger. So a lot of the time, we get the majority of the categories and move on, even if scoring is not that great and the depth's not that great. So I don't know, the blueprint works, but I think this is the toughest road to a finals that the North Stars have had in some time. Season 1, we lost to Bender in the first round, but then, Season 2, Season 3, we made it. But this is going to be tough, going through Seider and then the winner having to go through Bender. So I don't know. I've had better North Stars teams in the last couple of years. This one is kind of a step down, I think, but still good. Seider, on the other hand, went 11-5-3 this year. They got a win percentage of .545 after kind of ending the regular season with a thud against the Brinis. They are one of the unluckiest teams in the league, second unluckiest if you take out the Bender stat aberration. The Bucket Boys were unluckiest, and then Seider was second in that regard. I think this team is so good. Like, they are steady, they are solid, they are silent. Seider's just like been there all year, chugging along, super chill. No crazy results, but just lunch pail type team. I mean, for real. They're my dark horse, if you can call them that. I mean, they're tops in predictor. They're they just look like a really good roster, and they have a lot of good guys on this team. They score at an elite level. They skate at an elite level. Goaltending is middle of the road, but I'm gonna throw a bone at you. Spencer Knight was just traded to the Blackhawks in that trade that was, in fact, a Hawks fleece. Seth Jones going to the Panthers, Spencer Knight going to the Blackhawks. So that's Jack's third goaltender, and Spencer Knight's been behind Sergei Bobrovsky for most of the season. I think Jack's counting stats are about to get a massive boost in goaltending. So he's going to go from a team that is middle of the road in all those goaltending categories to at least looking for a split. You can get total saves, and I think the other one is wins. It's just wins and saves. Yeah. Goals against average and save percentage, you can throw those in the toilet, because if you're splitting goaltending, this team scores enough and skates enough where you're going to win a majority of the categories again. I think Spencer Knight getting traded to Chicago might be the X factor that gets Seider on a deep playoff run. I don't know. I'm saying it now, but I see the writing on the wall. I think this team might be about to kick it into overdrive. They lead predictor thanks to their depth. I'm not fooled one bit by the 3 seed they received. They got a little bit unlucky in a tough Strobel division. It's going to be a pretty even matchup, but man, Seider could easily be a championship contender. I mean, they are a championship contender. I would not be shocked whatsoever if they, as the 3 seed, ran through the North Stars and ran through Bender to go get someone in the final. We haven't seen it yet. Seider's not been to a final. I've only been to one semifinal, I believe. But I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. For real. We'll take a look at the categories. North Stars have the advantage 7-6-1, so it's basically a push. Scoring is Seider, pretty decidedly. Skating is pretty close to a push, but I think it leans towards Seider. The North Stars could win it, but I think Seider's the better skating team. Goaltending's pretty clearly North Stars at this point, but I see the writing on the wall with Spencer Knight if they actually start him in Chicago right away. So my pick, if it's North Stars by half a category is the line, I will take Seider to cover that, which basically means that it's at least a tie. This is the best matchup of the first round, for sure. North Stars goaltending, I've watched it this year. Those save percentages have not been good. And I know that's been down, just across the league, save percentages have been down, but the North Stars kind of struggle and have struggled in the past month or two to keep that save percentage above 900 with Ottinger and Saros. And Aiden Hill, we have a big goaltending room. So, I don't know. I don't really trust it this year. I trust my team a lot less than I did the one in Season 2 and Season 3. Seider is going to vulture some categories in goaltending, and in an instant classic, I think Jack wins enough of the skating and scoring while splitting goaltending to move on and beat me and set up the perfect semifinal. Bender's Achilles heel. Will they beat Seider? They have to, I think. Now, if the North Stars are able to beat Seider, I think Bender will knock us down with impunity. But I think Seider's the one team that can take out Beer League Bender before they make the final. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. All right. Yeah, we've talked about it all. That's really all I have. We have to do one more thing, and that is jinx some teams. And also go get the cup, that too. But I don't know if I'm going to have it for the video. We'll see. At long last, it is time to make predictions. Who will take home the John Withers Cup in 2025? It has been in the hands of the Bucket Boys, the North Stars, and the Wet Bandits. Maybe it finds someone new. Maybe it goes back to a former champion. So let's rehash what I just said on all these other predictions. I got the Bandits over the Brinis. I got ToeDraggin over Nebraska. I have Bender over Bedard, and I have Seider over the North Stars. So your semifinals for me are Bandits, ToeDraggin, and Bender Seider. You put the categories together, and in the Grosso Division final, Bandits and ToeDraggin are basically 6-6-2. They're dead even. It's going to be another great semifinal, another great playoff matchup if it gets to that. It's really, really close, but I have to lean Wet Bandits there. Breyer's been so dynamite as a manager since coming in to help Jack Dankert with his teams over the past couple years. He's got 2 championships, multiple Manager of the Year awards. He loves hockey. He's a former hockey player for the Austin Bruins. Had a cup of coffee with him at least. And yeah, he's been a very, very good addition to the league. And so is Wyatt, to be fair. I just think Bandits have a little bit better of a roster, and when the chips are down, I think Breyer's going to pull one out. Yeah, I'll take the Bandits to move on to their second straight final. Then in Bender Seider, categories say it's 8-2-4 in favor of Beer League Bender, which is so interesting because Seider beat him 8-6 twice. But I do think it's so hard to beat a team 3 times in one season. I don't know how many times that's happened in the Federation. Surely it doesn't happen too much in like a sport like football. It sure doesn't happen too much in a sport like NHL hockey because they're all professionals and you never have the same situation pop up twice, much less 3 times. So Seider got both of them in the regular season. I feel like in this case, it could be a great game. I hope it is a great game, but I think Bender moves on there. So it's chalk. I know, stupid. Bender Bandits. I think that's what I had last year too. They've just been the 2 best teams in the league through the past couple seasons. I mean, Bender Bandits have been really, really good. North Stars have been great. Seider's been great. Bucket Boys have been solid. The X have been solid. You know, we've got teams coming up. ToeDraggin has looked like a championship contender for most of the season. But man, when it comes down to it, I feel like we know where the power lies, and it's Beer League Bender and the Wet Bandits. The categories say it's 7-5-2 in favor of Beer League Bender. Bender would have the tiebreaker as the number 1 overall seed. Oh, man. Because goaltending in that is really close. Scoring in that is pretty close. That would favor Bender. No, it'd favor the Bandits. Scoring would. What am I talking about? Defensive categories go for Bender. Yeah. The skating and the goaltending are just too much. Do we have a back-to-back champion, or do we finally have the team that needs to raise it? It's Bender. Yeah, it's Bender. I love picking the 1 seed, dude. I love doing it. I shouldn't do it. I should know better. 1 seeds are very publicly cursed in the Federation. We have Shoe in basketball right now is the 1 seed is down to the 8 seed. Like this becomes a thing where I don't think you want to be the 1 seed. You'd rather be the 3. You'd rather be an ascendant 3 than be the 1 seed in peak week 6. And I think we've seen 4 years of evidence to back that up. But either way, I only have the stats there in front of me. You don't know how teams are going to play 6 weeks from now. Don't know who's going to be hurt, who's going to be healthy. You only have what's in front of you right now. And right now, Beer League Bender is the best team in the league. And I will pick them to hoist the John Withers Cup, the cup going to Arkansas and or New York City. That's it. That's all, my friends. Thank you so much for being a part of the league and making this the best and really only fantasy hockey league I know that survived more than one season. No one does it like Rink Rats. No one ever has done it like Rink Rats. No one ever will do it like Rink Rats. Thank you for being a part of it. It's really cool to be your commissioner and stay up to date on the goings-on in the NHL. So I will see you in 6 weeks' time. Maybe another video. Maybe I'll just do another chat dump with payouts and all that. Good luck. Set your lineups. Yeah, get pucks deep. Let's go. Fuck Adam Fox and Four Nations, by the way. Just a personal thing. Yeah.
Wake your punk ass up. It ain't nothing but a Compton thing. Chill. Real simple and plain. We teach you some lessons about the street.